What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we're doing the What's Next on Dillian Whyte. He is the he's the former WBC interim champion and former world title challenger. He returned from the loss to Tyson Fury earlier in the year, and he went out and got a majority decision victory over Jermaine Franklin in a fight where, you know, some people thought he lost the fight, but I mean, and we're knocking him for fighting a guy like Franklin and fighting close to him, but people got to understand, you know, Whyte's done this before. He fights down to his competition sometimes. He's done this in between big fights. He'll take on a guy who doesn't have a big name and he'll just kind of turn in a lackluster performance, you know? It is what it is. It happens a lot with guys that are on, you know, the upper levels. And, you know, from what I saw, the fight, Whyte landed the harder shots, and the fight, yeah, I mean, I guess Franklin was in it. It could have went either way, but Whyte did enough, in my opinion, to pull it out, even though it was close. And now the big question is, what's next for Dillian Whyte? Well, there's a lot of talk that going into the fight, that Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua, the rematch, it could be happening. We got to wait and see. You know, there's nothing concrete set in stone, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. You know, I think that's the more likely fight. But let's run through the top 10 real quick, just to be sure, and see what could be next for Dillian Whyte. We start with Tyson Fury, the undefeated WBC champion. The rematch, that would be for Whyte. He's not going to get a rematch with Fury. Fury dominated Dillian Whyte, stopped him in 6 rounds. There really isn't a reason for Fury to fight him again. So that fight definitely wouldn't happen next. Then there's Alexander Usyk, the unified champion. Usyk's not gonna fight him next. It's likely gonna be Fury and Usyk for the undisputed title next. But if Usyk were to not fight Fury, I don't think he'd take a step back and fight a guy like Dillian Whyte next. You know, I just don't see that. I don't see a point in that, even though Whyte does have a name. They're both with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. But I just don't see that fight coming off and having to happen. I don't think Usyk is interested, so I don't think so. Next is Anthony Joshua. Joshua, I think, is a very likely opponent, you know, for Dillian Whyte. He wanted the fight. I mean, these two guys fought back in 2016. Dillian Whyte hurt Anthony Joshua early on. Joshua came back and knocked Dillian Whyte out. They're both, you know, still good sized names, and they're both in need of a big win. So I think this fight makes a lot of sense for both, and I think it's probably going to happen. Then you got Deontay Wilder, the former WBC champion. Wilder looks like he's lining up for a showdown with Andy Ruiz next, even though he's talked about possibly fighting Anthony Joshua. I don't think it's going to be Joshua. I think Wilder's going to probably end up fighting Andy Ruiz, so I don't see Dillian Whyte and Deontay Wilder being possible. Then you got Joe Joyce, the WBO interim champion. You know, I don't see Joe Joyce fighting a guy like Dillian Whyte because, one, the promoters, Joe Joyce is has ties with Frank Warren in Top Rank, so they would have to come back and make a fight with Dillian Whyte, which, hey, I wouldn't completely rule it out because Dillian Whyte is, you know, it's an all-British matchup right here, and Joe Joyce is an avoided guy, so Dillian Whyte might be like, well, fuck it, I'll fight Joe Joyce. But I'm not sure. One, I think Dillian Whyte's going to fight Joshua, but two, if it wouldn't be for the full world title of the WBO, I don't think they would lock horns. And as of right now, Joe Joyce is not going to be the WBO champion until Usyk and Fury decide undisputed, and then the winner of that decide whether they want to fight Joe Joyce next or not. So I definitely think it's a makeable fight, but I don't see it happening with Joe Joyce. Then you got a rematch with Joseph Parker. If the Fury fight doesn't, I mean, if the Joshua rematch doesn't happen, I wouldn't be surprised if Whyte and Joseph Parker rematch. Parker's coming off a knockout loss to Joe Joyce. You know, Whyte got knocked out against Fury. Why not those two guys? Because they have promotional ties together with DAZN. It's an easy fight to make. Their first fight was fantastic, and it was very close at the end. It was a very close decision. Why not these two guys rematch in a crossroads fight? I think it'd be great. So I definitely think that one is possible if the Joshua fight doesn't happen. Then you got Andy Ruiz, you know, former unified champ, sitting there. And I don't see it because it's the two promotions would have to come together, the Matchroom and the PBC, which I don't see happening. But also, you know, it seems like Whyte and Joshua, and it seems like Ruiz and Wilder is what it seems like is going to happen next. But if for some reason Joshua and Wilder worked out a deal, which I don't think is going to happen, but if they worked out a deal for the first half of the year by some miracle, maybe these two guys would consider fighting each other, but I really don't see it happening. Then there's, you know, like Luis Ortiz. I don't think a guy like Dillian Whyte's going to give Ortiz the time of day, because Ortiz is a threat. You know, he probably should have got the decision against Andrew Ruiz when they fought. It was close, but he probably should have got the decision. And I just don't see what's his name wanting to fight him. You know, Dillian Whyte and Ortiz, and the promotions coming together. I just think they'd be more comfortable keeping their guys in house, both sides. So I'm not seeing it. And you know, to round out, Daniel Dubois, the WBA regular champion. I would love to see it. You know, it's an all British matchup, which would be exciting. So I'm not going to completely rule it out. But Dillian Whyte is with Matchroom, and Daniel Dubois is with Top Rank and Frank Warren, and ties with all that. So it's tough to get those fights made between those guys. Not to say it's impossible, but it is tough because of the warring promotions. But I wouldn't be surprised either. It wouldn't surprise me if those two guys decided to lock horns if Dillian Whyte doesn't get the showdown with Anthony Joshua. So that's it for the top 10, but I really believe it's going to be the Joshua fight for Dillian Whyte, and which is a huge opportunity for him. If he beats Anthony Joshua, he throws himself completely back in the mix, in the serious mix of the heavyweight division. But I could also see Joseph Parker if the Joshua fight doesn't happen, and then I think there's outside chances of Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois, because they're all British matchups. So that's it. That's what I got. That's the what's next on former interim champion Dillian Whyte following his November 26th majority decision victory over Jermaine Franklin. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.